This continues section 3.2. We're going to be talking about horizontal and vertical lines. Horizontal and vertical lines are very special lines. Horizontal and vertical lines both have some commonality. For instance, both of them only contain one of our variables. The horizontal line only contains our dependent variable, and a vertical line, its equation only contains our independent variable, and then a constant. And the horizontal lines we call our constant b, in following with the slope-intercept form, right? Y equals mx plus b form. What's going on here is the slope disappears. It becomes a 0, and so 0 times anything we know is 0. And that's why the x value, the independent value, is missing from a horizontal line. Now, something very different happens with the vertical line, and we can't explain it via the slope-intercept form because a vertical line is something that's not a function, and the slope-intercept form is a functional form of a line. So we can't talk about that in the same way. What we can say, though, is that the independent x does equal some constant, and we'll call that constant an a. So these are the equations of these things. And what this means is that for every single number that you can think of in a horizontal line, for every single independent value, the y value, the dependent, is always the same thing. Now, I've made this little table here to help you out for the future, as well as right now we're going to use just the types of ordered pairs and the intercept part here. So with a horizontal line, what we need to know right now is what the equation is and the types of ordered pairs, and then we do want to talk about the intercept as well. But eventually we'll need to know all of these pieces of information kind of simultaneously, and that will help us move from one thing to another. They're interwoven amongst one another. So the equation y equals b, if we see that, we automatically need to think, oh, this is a horizontal line. And the slope of that line will be 0. That's coming up in the next section. We'll talk about that. And the types of ordered pairs that we're going to see on a horizontal line will have any x underneath the sun, and that's why you see a number 1, a number 2, and number 3 here. But every single value for our independent will be a b, which is whatever this constant is in the y. And then, of course, the y-intercept, you know, is 0b because you see that right in the equation, right? And there is no x-intercept except for in the rare case that our equation is y equals 0, in which case it is the x-axis and everything would be an x-intercept, but that's a rare. Now the vertical lines, x equals a, as soon as we see an equation x equals a, that's tipping us off that it's going to be a vertical line. Now remember, horizontal goes this way, right? And vertical, it goes this way, up and down. And so that's the difference between horizontal and vertical. So when we see this x equals a form, we know, oh, it's a vertical line. Now next section we'll talk about the fact that the slope of a vertical line is undefined and why that's the case. Now what we know right now is that any ordered pair on a vertical line, whatever x equals, that's going to be the x value. And then the y values, the dependent values that are associated with that a value for the independent, those are going to take on any number underneath the sun. Every single y value will eventually be paired with that a. In this vertical line, there is no y-intercept unless it's the rare case that it is actually the y-axis. In that case, it would be every single number being a y-intercept, but that's a very rare case. That case would be that this x is equal to 0. But the x-intercepts in this case are whatever that a is and then 0, which should make sense if we think about that in terms of what an x-intercept is. So now we're going to graph these. Points, or these types of lines, and we're going to do 2 examples in our next little video. And we're going to see that one of the ways that we can do this quite easily is we can just say, okay, for instance, if I were going to graph the vertical line x equals 5, I know it's vertical because it's an x equals line. And then I would just say, okay, well, I'm going to choose 3 ordered pairs, and I'm going to say that my x is equal to 5 in every single case. And then I could choose any y's underneath the sun and put with that, plot those points, and then draw a vertical line through them. It's very, very easy, and that's what we're going to see in the next little lecture.